What's going on, my fellow Commander players? This is Joshua Jones with GLHF MTG bringing you a new addition to the Extra Turns series. And today I have a Commander deck tech for you. So it is Fall Christmas for all us Magic players out there. That means C18 is out, and it's time to upgrade what is my favorite of the commanders that came out, the Jund commander, Lord Windgrace. And that's because I have not made a Jund commander deck. I have a Gitrog deck. I have an Omnath deck. I'm scrapping those, combining them in together with the Lord Windgrace. Open up those color pairs for me later on and just play this pretty cool commander. So if you don't know, Lord Windgrace is 2 black, red, green. That's Jund for a 5 loyalty planeswalker that can be your commander and has the ability +2 to discard a card, draw a card. If you discard a land card, you draw an additional card. So you discard a land to draw 2. -3, return up to 2 land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then -11, destroy up to 6 target non-land permanents, then create 6 2/2 green cat warrior creature tokens with Force Walk. I don't know why you're getting that many green cats, but you know, if you ultimate, then good for you. But yeah, I mean that'd be cool and all, but not what we're focusing on for this deck. And I definitely would not ultimate if it meant that Lord Windgrace was gonna leave on its own accord. Our deck uses these abilities, but doesn't absolutely require Lord Windgrace to be in play, because I imagine being a Planeswalker commander is going to be dying all the time, and the commander tax works the same way. So what are we trying to do today? So the focus of this deck is to use the ability of Lord Windgrace as a straight draw effect, and that's going to be through discarding land cards from our hand. So we're going to have a not super high land count, but you know, a higher land count than your normal 36. So we're running 40, as you'll see in this deck. Then we're going to use the other ability to ramp out. So it's kind of crazy to just be discarding lands and then using that to draw, and then even though you're discarding the lands, you're still going to be able to ramp off of that. And then finally, we're going to combo. So like I said, I want to do the Omnath Gitrog thing with this deck, you know, to combine them into one deck. Kind of makes that 2 combos that those are known for less powerful, because they're not completely centered around it. But in a way, that kind of makes it more, you know, more fun to pull off, as we'll see later on. So before we get too deep into it, I want to let you know to head on over to mtggoldfish.com to view this deck. And there, I don't work with MTG Goldfish or anything, so I just want to be clear about that. I'm not with the channel. I just make all my decks there. So if you want to see more on the deck, you can head over there, and you can also read in the description all the notes that I have about this deck, as far as like what the costs are, see the actual cards that are going out and coming in, what I thought about like land bases, and you know, the budget that I kind of set for myself personally. So if you want to check that out, you can head on over there. This is what you're gonna see when you get over there. So do that if you want, but also you know, if you like this deck tech, remember to give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And, you know, putting out content once a week. So all right, so here we go. So Nature's Vengeance is the commander precon. They're MSRPing for $40. So at the time that the full deck list were released, they were on MTG Goldfish, and this deck was valued at $76.20. So you can see here, this is the 100 cards that you get with the deck when you buy it for the $40. And then once we scrap all the cards that we want to kind of upgrade it into our own, you end up with 74 cards. So that's 25 non-land cards and then 1 land card that I wanted to switch out. So you end up with 74 cards, and that total price is $53.99. So it's about $22. And the deck's you know, MSRP is $40, and it's about $80. So you're kind of doubling up. But when you get down to this $54 range after you take out the cards, you might consider go ahead and purchase the cards individually, you know, instead of buying the precon, we're going to end up with a 100 card upgraded list that's $180. So not, the most budget friendly necessarily, but a deck that's really effective. And also, this deck was made with you purchasing, having purchased the pre-con at MSRP. So we left in as many suitable playable cards that I thought we could, and just really kind of took out the stuff that wasn't that great. I thought, and could have just been optimized a little bit more for our combo and just for playability purposes. So if you were to purchase this deck list individually, some of the other pre-con cards that came with it could be a little bit more optimized, like your Rampant Growth over some of the other choices, and some of your card draw spells, some of your removal spells. Like you could get like a Croson Grip or something in there, but as you'll see, we didn't go that way because the cards that they provided were just suitable. So, all right, so moving on, we're going to end up with a 100 card deck of $180, and it's going to be an Omnath Gitrog combo with Lord Windgrace here. All right, so this is a lands matter deck. I mean, they said that specifically themselves, and they started out with 43 lands, and I kind of wanted to bring it down to 40. So basically just evened out the forest, mountains, and swamps. So just cut one swamp and two forest, and then also and then left it there. So we just have 3 extra card spaces. And then I swapped out a warped landscape for a Dakmor salvage. And this has dredge too, so it's part of a combo series, and when I just wanted to make sure we got that in there. I mentioned Valakut and some other stuff later, and the one thing I wanted to say about this is that if you're looking to upgrade this deck all over time, you're going to want to mess with the lands because it's a lands matter deck, but I didn't want to be too overwhelming by doing like every single land I would pick out for this deck, because I think that the lands that they included in the deck already are completely suitable. They work great. They're fine for the deck. But when you change it out and you upgrade this over time, you're going to want to prioritize lands that disrupt, lands that cycle, lands that fetch, because that's going to allow you to mess with your opponent lands and other cards and graveyards and stuff. And you can read more about that in the article that I wrote on it. And then that's also going to let you fix your mana with the fetch lands, and it's also going to let you draw cards and then play those lands anyways. So just be conscious of that. Even though this is a lands matter deck, I didn't want to jump into all the changes with the lands to not be too overwhelming. All right, moving on. So this is the section that we're going to talk about the utility cards that were already in the deck that we kept in the deck. So Worm Harvest and Rubble Hulk here, I think, make the cut because of the retrace on Worm Harvest. It's going to let us discard a land card to keep playing this over and over and get some token value, and lands in our graveyard aren't really a problem for us. Rubble Hulk, because just being able to discard it to get +X on a creature is just good enough in my opinion. And then also, if you want to play it, you're going to have plenty of lands out, and this is an elemental, so there's some synergies there. Then we move on to the Sower, the Dragon, the Balos, and the Zendikar. So these cards are perfectly suitable for the deck. They're creating some sort of token value for you. So in the event of Avenger of Zendikar and Turn Timber Sower here, these two cards work well together because they are generating green plants and creating creatures that you can sacrifice to get lands back to your hand. The Dragon creates flyers that you could throw fire breathing into, for some nice damage or just blocking in the air. Rampaging Balos, not much you need to say about this. It's just a solid card include. Then, of course, we kept Lord Windgrace in the deck. We're not going to take that out. We also went ahead and decided to keep the 2 alternate Jund commanders in the deck, and the primary reason for this is it's just flavor. I mean, they came with the deck to be alternates, and you could switch them out if you wanted to, but they bring enough value to the deck to maintain their place and to hold them in here. They're both pretty decent cards, and why strip them? Why not give you some options, like if you wanted to switch it up, even though it's not optimized to play either one of these two instead. But I would say if you wanted to build a Spider Tribal or Hydra Tribal or something like that with these commanders, just find a couple other cards that you like and switch them out if you need to. But they're decent cards. And then the Gardener here, I think, just brings enough value, being able to put lands into play, and then of course flipping it over to just create elementals, because we do have elemental synergies, so we left that in there. Next, we have the ramp in cards. So with the ramp in cards, these are the ramp cards that were included, like cards that were in the deck that I thought that they were intended to be in a ramp area or column, if you will. So obviously Soul Ring and Sakura Tribuilder, go ahead and leave those in there. Then when you get to Far Wanderings, Fairhaven Elf, Cultivate, and Harrow. So Harrow, a nice little extra kind of synergy, because the sacrifice of land into the ramp type of thing that's pretty familiar with. Cultivate came in the deck, that's awesome. Fairhaven has some play with one of the alternate commanders, and it's just a body that ramps you out. And what's interesting is this Far Wandering. So this is a reprint, but I have never seen this card. So Threshold, which means you have 7 or more in your graveyard, you get 3 basic lands into play tapped instead of just the 1. So I was thinking about switching this out with the Kodama's Reach, but I thought that this had enough play and enough flavor with the deck to just go ahead and leave in there. Here we have the Heart Expedition, the Hunting Wilds, and the Explosive Vegetation. So just some decent ramp cards here, and just they came in the deck. Go ahead and leave them in there. Explorer, I thought, fit in the ramp category. At least that was their intent with putting it in the deck. But I say just go ahead and switch it out with Farseek, because Farseek's going to give you some more options with getting the other colors that you need, because you're obviously already going to have green. And that's one of the things too with the lands when switching it out, is I would try to figure out what amount of green you need, because green's pretty crucial to this deck. But Farseek over the Explorer there. Next up, we have the Draw In. So this deck comes with this bad little worm right here that's a trample 6/6, and it allows you to return a target card from your graveyard to your hand. So to me, that's a draw. If you use the card and it's in your graveyard and you can get it for combat damage, this came in the deck. Leave it in there. Maybe you'll get 1, hopefully 2 cards out of it, if not more. Sears Sundial, we got lands coming in. So you're going to have lands coming in, and you're going to have mana, being able to generate and being around, and you're going to be able to draw cards. So there you go. Then we move on to this Moonlight Bargaining, which is kind of interesting because it seemed kind of expensive, but there were some similar options that looked kind of cheaper as far as the overall cost goes with Pay and Life. But, this gives you some selection, and when you're putting cards in your graveyard, it's not really a loss if those cards are lands, because we have ways of getting them out. And then, why not just kind of give some selection, and then you also have the choice to just keep them in your hand too if you just want to pay the full 10 on all 5 or whatever it may be. The deck comes with Death Reap Ritual, and you could pretty much have a creature die every turn. There's enough ways with your opponent's stuff and interactions, and then with your own kind of sacrifice type of effects that you have in the deck. So then with Blood Tracker here, just being able to basically do like a greed effect where you just pay life and pay mana, put counters on it. It's kind of like the way greed works. And if you wanted to switch this out with greed, I wouldn't hate on you, but this came in the deck, and I think it makes the slot worth it. Soul of Innistrad is kind of like the same thing, but with the graveyard play instead of with the just straight drawing the cards. Here we have Draw In Out. So these are the 4 cards that come in the deck that I would take out for 4 other kind of better draw cards. So Borderland and the Vine Crasher and Elder and Grapple with the Past here, I thought that they were in the deck to kind of give you some draw and some graveyard play, but I don't think that they are impactful, and they show up in decks that deal with graveyards a lot, but I didn't find them to be as impactful as these 4 cards right here, which I think are just a little bit better. So even though Protector of Argoth doesn't exactly say draw a card, the reason why I have it in the draw area is because you're going to have a land in your graveyard that's going to go back to the battlefield, so it already replaces itself there. And then whenever you put lands from the graveyard on the battlefield, you're going to get a 5/3 elemental, which we have some play with elementals later, so you're getting cards that you didn't even have in your hand. They're not even in your library extra. So Phyrexian Arena is just too good to pass up. When you're in black, in my opinion, is just, you know, card draw every turn, and you know, if you kill yourself with it, then I mean, just be happy you drew so many cards, right? Nissel Vital Force is in the deck because it has a lot of play with the lands becoming elementals, being able to return any permanent from your graveyard to your hand, and then if you get the emblem, which is not difficult to do, I don't think, and is the primary reason it's in the draw spot, you're going to just be able to draw tons and tons of cards when it lands ATB. The Dead Bridge chant here is just kind of a random effect, and by kind of I mean a straight random effect, but you know, it's you know, either on the battlefield or in your hand, and you know, it's a good solid enchantment that is good to include in this deck, I thought. Now we move on to the removals. So interestingly enough, there's 10 cards that come in like what I would consider the removal of this deck, and I just went ahead and decided to leave all 10 in there. So like I mentioned earlier, Cross and Grip, Chaos, Warp, Vandal Blast, those type of removal spells, like, you know, feel free to switch any of those out with any type of removal spells that you know, like more than that, or that you already have in your possession. But if you're just brand new to this game, these removal spells will suit enough, you know, to get the job done as far as type of removal and interaction suite go. So we got Windgrace's Judgment. This is a new one. You get to choose any number of opponents. So I mean, choose all your opponents unless you're just getting crazy political with it, and destroy a target non-land permanent. There's I think this is going to be a Golgari staple, maybe, especially if you're got your meta playing like 4 or greater, you know, 4, 5, 6 people. Then the Flammable Ash Dragon I included in the removal category because if you attack with it at least once, you're going to have mana to pay into it, and you can deal that damage to a creature or player. So being that it's a creature, you know, you can consider that removal. Here we got Ruinous Pass, so reprint, Putrefy, Acidic Slime, Decimate, just straight reprints here. So they're good utility, dealing with different types of things, creatures, planeswalkers, artifacts, you know, enchantments, stuff like that, that you can get rid of. So great removals in the deck, and I keep these in here, and you know, I might even have considered putting these in here if you know, if they didn't come in here, they might have been up for consideration. Here we continue with the removal with Chain Reaction, Lava Launch, or I don't know how you say that, Gaze of Granite, and Whip Tongue Hydra. So Whip Tongue Hydra is kind of like you know, it's creatures with flying, but I don't know why, it just makes me think about Bane of Progress, and I know it's not Bane of Progress, but it kind of gives me that vibe to it. And then Gaze of Granite, just, you know, put a bunch of X in there. Lavalanche, put a bunch of X in there. Kind of, this is more like along the lines of our sweeper type effect removal spells here. All right, now on to the utility in and out. This is where the majority of the deck changes come, is in this next segment here. So, you know, so far I think we've only switched out 5, 6 lands if you include the Dakmor. But here we kind of get into the bulk of what we're going to remove. So we're going to rip out Crash of Rhino Beetles and this Forest here, because Crash of Rhino Beetles is dope. It's a cool card. If you want to play it, play it. You know, but it's cool, but you know, not, I don't know, not that impactful. You know, watch somebody's gonna like fling this and be like, you're an idiot or whatever. But I don't know. Take it out. Put this in instead. Walking Ballista and Hangerback Walker. There's just ways to generate a lot of mana in this deck, and these 2 cards right here are just great. I mean, they provide tons and tons of value for you, and I think you should just auto include them in a good majority of decks, but especially in this one. Next up, we're going to take out a Forest, another one, a Swamp, Emissary of Grudges, and Loyal Guardian. Loyal Guardian is nifty, Lieutenant's nifty, but I just I don't know. I don't think it's, you know, impactful enough to get a slot, in my opinion, and that's why I want to go ahead and rip it out of there, and I don't think that you'll regret it. And then we have the Ifrit here, which is just, there's a lot going on this card, but I'm just, I don't know, I'm good with it. I don't really want to choose targets, and there's spells and the permanents, and you can only do it once, and it's a secret and all. Yeah, I'm good. I appreciate the mechanic. I appreciate the effort of the secret stuff, but I just think that if you put these cards in, you'll be way happier. So we have a pretty even split here. So you see Ramanop, Excavator, and Crucible Worlds, Reign of Filth, and Sylvan Safekeeper. So the left two here deal with playing cards from your graveyard, and the right two deal with sacrificing your lands. So in one case, you get Shroud on something. The other, you get a one-time effect instead of the instant speed effect to just generate the black mana. And then with the Excavator, yeah, that's right, Excavator and the Worlds here, playing those cards that you sacrifice from your graveyard. So you don't these cards don't allow you to play extra lands, but they do let you play lands from your graveyard. And luckily, with the Crucible of Worlds, we just had a reprint in M19 to get this card down to that $20 mark that I may have mentioned earlier in this deck tech. So just play these, you'll be okay and happy with them. That's a promise. Here we have Loyal Subordinate, Fury Storm, the Sleeper Agent, and Scramble. So these cards, I just took these out because even though I like the retrace on the one here, it just doesn't, I don't know, didn't really do it for me. With the Sleeper Agent, it's just, I just don't want to have any effects that allow other people to draw cards or do anything like that. The Fury Storm's a cool little thing, but I just don't want to copy minutes in our sorcery. And then with each opponent losing 3 life, not that impactful. Instead, throw in these cards: Wayward Swordtooth, Azusa, World Shaper, and Splendor of Reclamation. So right here we have ways to play extra lands, and we have ways to put all the lands that are in our graveyard on the field at one time. So Azusa coming out in M25, bringing the price down to that $20 mark that I wanted to hit for each, didn't want to go over that for any cards in this deck. And there really aren't that many cards in this deck that are too crazy expensive. There might be like 10 total cards that are over $10, less than that probably. The slide in the front showed that, so you can check that out or just go to the website, to view the whole deck list. So Wayward and Azusa are similar, but Wayward's one less than Azusa. Azusa, you're going to get 2 additionals. Just play those lands. You're probably going to have them. And then the World Shaper here, you have ways to sacrifice this and kind of fills your graveyard up by 3, and then when it dies, you can get all that stuff back. And then Splendor Reclamation for 4 mana just to dump all your lands onto the battlefield. Just going to be crazy. Generate mana for you the next turn, and then hopefully get you some value off of a Nissa Emblem or something like that. So throw these in there. You'll be happy. And here is what we were talking about earlier. So I was just saying about the Omnath package that I wanted to put in this deck. So I ripped out Gristly Salvage and stitched together. Take those out. They're not as impactful as they need to be, I think, to make a slot in the 99, and instead put in Lotus Cobra and Perilous Boreas. Anyways, so the Lotus Cobra here is whenever a land enters, you get a mana. So essentially, like, if you play a land, you get a mana, and that just gets out of hand quickly. It's pretty nice. If you haven't played with Lotus Cobra and you play it for the first time, you're going to be like, oh man, this is awesome. And then the Voorhees here, I can't say this card right, so you know what I'm talking about. It's the other card here. It's great because it combos with it. So when you have Omnath out, these two just go great together. And, you'll see why in a bit. So next we took out Cosign to Dust, Savage Twister, Retreat to Hagra, Lower Apprentice. So same thing here. Like, I mean, you can look at these cards and read them all you want. And just in my opinion, there are other cards that do more impactful things than these, and that's why I just decided to take them out of here. I mean, getting a Thopter, draining, Death Touch, X damage, and destroying things, and even with the Strive, it's just not good enough in my opinion. Rip them out. And we're going to put in Omnath, of course, because it's the Omnath package. Sylvan Awakening, Ashnod's Altar, and Torment of Hellfire. So what I like here is Sylvan makes your lands that you get off your landfall that's already putting elementals into play into elementals, and then you sack the elementals in the lands that are in the elementals to Ashnod's Altar, and then if you have a couple black mana laying around, you Torment a Hellfire for a Grip 10. And now we're moving on to our Gitrog package. So this is kind of going to be wrapping it up here with the Scoop Mob, the Bailoff, the Monstrosity, and the Incarnate. Good cards, cool cards, kind of cool interaction. I like it. Same thing though, just not good enough to earn a spot. In my opinion, they're on the weaker scale of the deck's overall potential. Put in Elixir of Immortality. Oh boy, the Gitrog monster, Scourge Familiar, and a Sanguinate. And right here, what we have is some mad combo potential. So Sanguinate, obviously, Scourge, you can kind of see what's happening there. Gitrog enables it, and then Elixir, preventing you from milling yourself out. So speaking of the $20 kind of limit that I set here, these are some cards that were cut because of cost. So Doubling Season, you have a commander, you have some counter stuff, but mainly because you're playing a commander as your planeswalker as your commander. Doubling Season seems like it'll go in, but not for $40. I don't think so. I mean, you really you can get away without it. It's not really a planeswalker deck, and you can't even ultimate with the loyalty even doubled up. And then Squadron resources here, like if you have this card, or if you have $35, this card is crazy because you get a sack of land, which you're probably going to be able to play or return anyways, and add a mana of any type that could produce. So it's kind of like a reverse Lotus Cobra type of effect. Ulamog I just wanted instead of the Elixir of Immortality for that kind of combo, but at $25, Elixir, we can get away with that. And then Oracle I wanted over the Wayward Servant, but just at $30, you can get away with the Wayward Servant. And that's why these were cut for cost. And then other cards that I consider were Life, and you should consider even, were Life from the Loam and Escape Shift. But I didn't really look at lands like I had mentioned in, Valakut. Valakut could go in the deck. The problem is that you would have to center your deck around mountains, and you kind of don't want to center your deck around mountains because once you start going into land upgrades, you're going to want to do, like we said, disruption, fetching, and cycling. And in 3 colors you don't want to just focus on mountains. There's not that many duels, and the ones that are dual named are more expensive, and then you just don't need it. And if you're not going to have it, then Escape Shift isn't really necessary either. And then Life from the Loam, you could certainly play Life from the Loam. It's not I don't know. Life from the Loam can definitely go into the deck, so you could probably find a slot for that. But it's like $20. Each one of these is $20 here, and you kind of get away with it without Life from the Loam. But by all means, especially if they reprint it or if you have one, Life from the Loam is definitely a consideration. All right, and now let's talk about the Challenge Achievement Trophy of this deck tech, which I kind of like to do to throw a challenge out to you for the deck. So what this challenge is it involves the Gitrog package that we were talking about earlier. So if you have Dakmor Salvage in your hand, and Gitrog, Scourge Familiar, and Elixir of Immortality are on the battlefield, what you do is, you may have already seen this, what you do is you discard the Dakmor to Scourge to get a black mana, triggering Gitrog to draw 2 cards. Instead, you mill 2 cards and put Dakmor into your hand. Likely, you will have milled a land card, which Gitrog is going to allow you to draw a card off of that. Then, Dakmar is in your hand, so you discard it to get black mana, and you can repeat this process. As you're repeating this process, you want to remember, if you draw cards off of Gitrog trigger from dredging off of Dakmor, to discard land cards out of your hand before repeating the cycle with Dakmor. That's going to get the process done quicker. Elixir of Immortality you can have on the battlefield to ensure that you don't mill yourself out if you don't get where you need to before the end of the cycle. So definitely, if you have the Ulamog, play it, because then you don't even need Elixir on the battlefield or in your hand at all. At some point, you'll just shuffle back in. Now, you can do this without Elixir on the battlefield, and then just if you mill yourself out before you get the pieces you need, then so be it, or just stop the process until you can figure it out, or just die. Why not? Anyways, but this is my challenge to you. Get Gitrog out and get Scourge Familiar out with Dakmor in your hand and go to town. Let me know if you have achieved this challenge achievement trophy before. Now, once you get all that black mana, in case you don't know, the way you win is by Walking Ballista Torment, Exsanguinate, Hangerback Walker. So you just play Hangerback Walker for whatever, and then it'll have a bunch of counters on it. You get in or you sacrifice it to get the Thopters. Exsanguinate's a pretty much instant win. Torment, same thing. Walking Ballista, just put the counters and then remove them. So this is your challenge. If you don't like that challenge, we can do the Omnath challenge, where it's pretty much what I was talking about earlier. Omnath's on the battlefield with Lotus Cobra in Perilous Voorhees, or however you say it. And then what you do is you play a land, which gives you a mana from Lotus Cobra. You use the mana from Lotus Cobra and sacrifice the 5/5 that you got from Omnath to get a land from your deck onto the battlefield tapped, and then that land triggers Omnath and triggers Lotus Cobra, which allows you to play the Voorhees again. And then basically, as soon as you have Omnath and Lotus and the Voorhees on the battlefield, you're going to be able to get every land from your deck and make every land card with a basic land type from your deck and make that many 5/5 elementals. Once you have those elementals, you sack them to Ashnod's Altar to get a bunch of colorless mana and ping everybody for 3 damage at a time, and then you use then you use all that mana from Ashnod's Altar on one of the X spells from our previous combo. So pretty awesome if you ask me. Yep. Well, hey, that's about gonna do it for this one. Please like, share, subscribe. Go check out the deck list and the article on the deck, and I hope you really enjoyed it. I'm Joshua Jones from GLHF. Put Jundam in. I'm out.